Good morning, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette. And we're back here on a Thursday morning to talk some Nebraska Cornhuskers. And last night we had a no-hitter from the Cornhuskers, the first since 1954. We'll have some more spring ball thoughts and some transfer portal takeaways here. But before we get to all that, please make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the like button, get into the comment section, and check out HuskerBigRed.com. So, Danny, with all that, how you doing this morning, man?
Good. I can't believe it's May already. We're talking about final spring thoughts. I feel like spring ball just started yesterday, but here we are. First no-hitter since 1954. 12 strikeouts, only 2 hits from Jackson Brockett. And, Nebraska baseball has been struggling a little bit, and that will certainly add a spark moving forward as, just an absolutely impressive feat no matter what level, a no-hitter. That was just incredible. I was able to watch some of the highlights, and he just was on top of his game, and he was able to pitch at a high level, which is exactly what Nebraska needed. So
Yeah, they've really struggled with, these midweek, non-conference games. They haven't won one for a while. They lost all three to Creighton. And the pitching has been a big, a big issue for them. And so Jackson Brockett to come out with the sixth no-hitter in Nebraska baseball history, the first 9-inning no-hitter since 1954. He had 12 strikeouts. So just a spectacular showing and a pretty important win for Nebraska, who had 12 hits, 8 runs, improved to 28-15. Kansas State was ranked 31st in the RPI, so that was a pretty important win for the Huskers to try to build their non-conference resume, trying to get into the tournament. As we saw last year, in the Big Ten, not very many teams are getting into the tournament. There's maybe 2 or 3. I don't know if the Big Ten had any large teams last year. I'm trying to think back, but there's usually not very many. So these non-conference games, especially, this would be, I guess it wouldn't be a quad 1 win in the basketball sense, but still a top 50 win in non-conference, which was really important
yep.
for this team. So a historic moment, and also, a win that could potentially help them get into the NCAA tournament if they're not able to win the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and you talk about finishing strong down the final stretch here, 1st of May, yesterday. You want to try to build up your resume and get as many of these, final regular season wins as you can. And, Nebraska certainly did that in a big way on Wednesday.
Yeah, in terms of the if you haven't been following, or if you just aren't aware, the Huskers are right now a half game, or basically a game out of first place in the Big Ten Conference. Purdue and Illinois are leading. Nebraska, Indiana, Michigan are all a 1 game behind in the loss column, so they are right there in terms of contending for the Big Ten championship. It's just a matter of wrapping things up here over the next few weeks. Softball is coming to a close soon. They've been, still grinding out wins, despite the fact that they've lost, Jordy Ball and a number of other key players. But it's been fun to watch. So the Big Ten softball tournament will be coming up here in a couple of weeks. Northwestern and Michigan are kind of right there. Nebraska's in 5th place right now at 10-8. So, I mean, still a winning season. But yeah, some work to do if they're going to try to, make the postseason again.
Yeah, but it's all about, getting there. Once they get there, anything can happen. Like you said, they still have some work to do, but at the same time, this team has shown that they've been able to be resilient, and also, they can grind out wins when needed and grind out games when needed. So, once the postseason hits, anything can happen. So it'll be interesting to see what they do as well.
And looking ahead for Nebraska and kind of what lies ahead for this team, coming up this weekend is going to be a 3-game series against Minnesota on the road. So those are going to be 3 important games. Then South Dakota State, then a 3-game set at home against Indiana, then a 3-game set at Michigan State to close out the season. So really, they only have to play one of the teams that's one of the top 5 teams remaining in the Big Ten right now. 2 of the 3 series that they have, so basically 9 Big Ten games. They have 6 of them on the road, so that's not going to make it easy. Michigan State, is kind of in the middle of the pack, but if they can win those 2 road series and take care of Indiana at home, you never know, you might be able to win a Big Ten championship, and that's nothing to scoff at. So over the next 3 weeks, that's definitely going to be on the radar, trying to see if Nebraska baseball can push that and get the top seed in the Big Ten tournament, but win the Big Ten championship as well.
Absolutely, and it would be a strong season after some, not controversy, but some questions as to whether Will Bolt should still have a job, and this is exactly the type of season that they needed. And so hopefully they can finish the job and continue to develop.
So then another thing that happened this week, I guess, in terms of both football and men's basketball, the transfer portal closed as of last night. It closed for basketball. It closed for football, the spring window on April 30th. Of course, graduate transfers had one more day to transfer, which was yesterday. There could still be, teams had 2 days, up to 48 hours to file their paperwork. So I guess if a player wanted to transfer and the team really wanted to, drag their feet, there could be some more news today. But at least from a Nebraska perspective, I don't think we're going to see any others. We saw a couple of, former walk-ons, Jack Woshi, I believe is how you pronounce it, Corver Dema, a couple of guys that, didn't really play a whole lot. They've entered the transfer portal. But the one big name was Chief Borders. Matt Rule talked about him, said he was one of the most improved players in camp. We saw him at, during the spring game. I definitely think it's safe to say he would have been, a guy on the 2 deep. I don't know that he would have started this year. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I do think that he would have had a role on this defense. And seems to me, just not without any inside information, that, he's probably just looking for, somewhere where he can start and play. And I believe that, with all the tampering going on, it wouldn't shock me, if people saw or heard what Matt Rule said, looked at where he's at on the depth chart and said, hey, maybe we can poach this guy if we offer enough money. So we'll see where he ends up. I don't want to, say that's what happened, but that generally is what's happening nowadays in college football. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, you have to wonder if Rule's comments, Rule kind of knew that maybe boards would the transfer portal, so I wanted to put in one final good word. And, I wish the best of luck to him. I know people are mad all the time that these players transfer, but that's the nature of the business now. And, I've heard he's been looking at some schools, and so I'm hoping he can find a fit. That's just my worry with all these kids. So many enter the portal, but there's only so many spots, and I just hope he finds a fit. And I wish him the best, and hopefully he can build off the spring he had here. And our defense is just so loaded that I don't think he would have gotten playing time, but he would have really had to kind of work for it. And for a guy entering his final season, I don't blame him for not wanting to do that. People will say that he ran from the grind and he didn't have the heart to be a Husker. That's not true at all. I mean, if your employer, employed you, but you had, 4 other employees ahead of you, and there was really, I'm not going to say no way to, get the top job, but it was going to be a real struggle, and you only had a limited amount of time, you would do the same thing. So everybody saying he ran from the grind that's just a stupid take.
Yeah, people always get mad, just like
Yeah.
Sauer, they get mad when players leave their team. But I mean, you just have to, look at it from his perspective. I mean, if somebody came to you and was like, hey, we'll offer you more NIL money and you'll probably have a bigger role on the field, then yeah, it makes sense. It's, we would all do that. If somebody offered me, a promotion and, more pay, more than likely I probably would take it. I mean, so would each and every one of
Yeah.
you. I mean, let's
Yeah.
not be
100%. Yeah.
that's the thing
Yeah.
that bothers me. They're like, it's like, oh, this guy's man. It's like, just get over yourself. If somebody offered you 300,000 for, a job where you were getting paid 100,000 before, you would take it in a heartbeat and not
This
care.
guy didn't have heart. Give me a break. He can still have heart, but want the dough. I'd want the dough.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't know. I don't know. It just really grinds my gears. Like, no, they didn't run from the grind. They saw an opportunity where they could showcase their skills. They're getting more money. Like, it's not a run from the grind. It's a, hey, look, I can play and get more money. How hard is it to understand?
yeah, people get really frustrated about it. But, on the whole, I mean, the fact that Nebraska only lost, Chief Borders from, I mean, really looking back to the winter until now, I mean, he's probably the only player like on the 2 deep that they lost that was really going to have any type of a role. Thinking back, I mean, they did lose some other guys, but nobody I think that was really going to play that much. So overall, I think Nebraska, if you look at the transfer windows, their additions, their subtractions, I think they did a great job, and mostly because they kept everybody on their team. So,
And they didn't lose any wide receivers, did they?
nope, we didn't
I
lose
thought
any
that would
wide
be a room where they
receivers.
trimmed the fat a little bit, but
Malachi Coleman freaked people out a little bit with his tweet. I don't know if you saw that, but
that's the other thing that's so annoying. Like, people were absolutely freaking out. He said he made a tweet, and everybody was reading into it like, that's like, relax, people, until he signs a paper or you see him in a different jersey, or there's a news report that says Malachi Coleman enters the portal. Or like relax. I mean, I know we're all fans, but it's so crazy how some people just hang on to every word that an 18-year-old kid says. If everybody hung on to every single word I said when I was 18, I'd probably be in jail right now. So there you go. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
It
maybe it's because there's no news going on, and it's like it's kind of, that midway point of the year. But it's like everybody's freaking out, and I honestly think that players do it sometimes because they know it'll generate a stir, which I don't blame them. I would love to kind of stir the pot a little bit and see people freak out, but still, like Malachi Coleman's tweet, like meant absolutely nothing, and even Colorado fans were like, "Oh, come to the Buffs," and I don't know. It's just
yeah.
crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know.
It is crazy. I mean, I could see, I guess, why people, could have taken it that way. I forget exactly what it
Yeah.
said, but yeah, don't worry about it. And I mean, yeah, I don't know why people have so much, I don't like Malachi Coleman is such a what's the word I'm looking for? People just get really I don't like upset about things that he does or,
Polarizing figure, but he's not polarizing in a bad way,
yeah. I don't get it. He's a great kid, man, and he's, come up from a really tough situation.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of great things with other foster kids, and he's gonna
Good,
be a good player this
good
year. I mean,
family too. Good family too. And
yeah.
so I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't really read too much into it unless I see the reports that they go into the transportal or whatever. But I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic. Like we rely so much on these 18-year-old kids when back in the day we weren't making smart decisions as 18-year-olds either, And so
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely am excited to see what he does this season.
Yeah.
I know he was limited this spring, but Coach Rule did say that he looked really well when he was out there, looked really good, and he looked good last season. He had that like 40-yard touchdown against, I think it was Northwestern, one of those games that was kind of a clinching
Yeah.
play for the
Yeah.
Huskers. And yeah, I know everybody's talking up Jalen Lloyd and Isaiah Nair and all these guys, Ja'Cory Barney, but Malachi Coleman's got as much talent as anybody in that wide receiver room. And with his second year, I do expect him to, make a big leap. I know I still plan to be throwing the football at him quite frequently when I get NCAA football 25 with Dylan Raiola. And
Which there's
I'm
an
hoping
announcement coming this month. I can't remember which date, but maybe a full gameplay trailer. I'm hoping.
there should be. I did see that they had some stuff about, potential cover athletes, which I don't really care about that. I'm not
I'm getting the
worried too
digital
much.
version, so like I don't know. That part I'm gonna miss.
Yeah,
I
me too.
remember, not to go off on a tangent, but here we are. Welcome to the show. When the last one came out, I stood outside the game store, stood in line, and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and I finally got my copy. I got home, put the game in, and just played all day. Now I don't sadly kind of even need to do that. I can just go over to my TV, download it digitally, and like I don't know. That part I'm gonna miss because half the fun was just waiting in line, talking to people excited about the game, and the midnight releases. Like it just doesn't have the same flair anymore. Maybe I'm sounding old because I used to listen to cassette tapes too, so maybe that makes me an old guy now. But I don't know.
I mean, does your PS5 not have the disc version?
I don't think. Let's see. I'm just looking right now. I think mine's digital,
Because
and
my Xbox is digital, so I know what you're
quite
gonna
honestly,
say.
I'm so clumsy with like everything that I'd scratch off the disc in no time and then have to buy a new one. So for my own personal like well-being, I'm glad that it's digital.
Yeah, I went that route too because I just was like, well, I don't really, But now I'm like, I might have to get the old external hard drive. We'll see how much room the NCAA is going to take up on the old system. But
Is
at
it
any rate,
crossplay? I'm hoping it's crossplay because we could build an online dynasty maybe together or something.
yeah, we could. I'm sure it will be. I mean, Madden's crossplay, so I don't know
Yeah,
why. I've been trying to work on my Madden skills. I still kind of suck, but
I'm
that's
awful.
okay.
I'm
On the
awful. I'm in the league.
PS4, I was okay, but on the Xbox, on the Series X, they got the new passing
Yeah.
thing, and
Oh,
that
the
is,
target passing with the stick. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that, but I'm working on it. I get pissed when I throw interceptions though
I don't
with
know. I
third
just
and
watch
long. So.
YouTube videos and like I'm in a Madden league and all these guys are so good and I'm just barely getting 100 yards a game and it's like all right, like this is not fun.
Yeah, I'm not good enough. Every time I play online after like the third series, they like know exactly what I'm going to do on offense, and I'm just totally screwed because I just don't. I gotta trust my pass protection more. I look at the rush too
Yep.
much, and then
Yep.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
then the most embarrassing part is when you have your headphones in or whatever, and you think you're getting beat. Then it's like some like 10-year-old kid just absolutely roasting you, and it's like, all right, I gotta get off now. Like this is embarrassing.
I definitely I definitely am one of those. I leave the game when I'm like, okay, after like my fourth interception, I'm like, all right, I'm done. But anyway. As far as Nebraska, this is going to be fun though when NCAA football is on there. And the main point, like to back to, I am excited about Malachi Coleman. I'm glad he's here. I'm glad we didn't lose Emmett Johnson like we thought, was
Yeah.
potential to happen.
Mhm.
So I feel pretty good about that. I don't know if there's going to be any additions. I think that they have talked to a few guys. I think like a defensive lineman or two, but I don't really see them really making a push for a ton of guys because one, I don't think
No.
they have the scholarship room, and I think if Matt Rule could find a multi-year guy that he thought could make an impact, or even a grad transfer who could make a really big impact, like with Dylan Edwards, they took a shot at him. But for the most part, I think we have our roster for the 2024 season, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and also Nebraska made the top 4 yesterday for 2025 defensive lineman Cade Petruzak. He's a 4-star player. His top 4 are Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas State, and Wisconsin. So I feel honestly really pretty good about where they stand there. He also played offensive line in high school, but I believe he would go to the defensive side of the ball. He's very athletic, can close the quarterback's pocket really quickly. Very strong, very aggressive, and he could just add another name to the defensive line room, and that would, and the room is good already, and Petruzak would add a development, piece, obviously, because he's a 25 recruit, but at the same time, I mean, just keep stacking that room, man. So I'm gonna be curious to see how that recruitment plays out, and I think we have a good shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting kind of recruitments for Nebraska too. I mean, TJ Lateef. I think that Steve Wiltfong was on doing his Wiltfong whip around or whatever he calls it on 3 earlier this week, and he said he was very close to putting in a Fong bomb because they were talking about the new
Yeah.
Fong bombs of the week, and then they asked him like, "What's one that you're close to?" And he said, "Keeping my eye on TJ Lateef with Nebraska." So there could be, a Steve Wilt Fong, a Fong bomb. If you're not familiar with those, an expert projection for him to go to Nebraska, that would be pretty important. Those guys aren't always right though, because I'm pretty sure he just predicted a guy to go to Michigan that ended up going to Kentucky. So I mean, take the predictions with what they're worth, but I feel pretty good about Nebraska with TJ Lateef.
So Latif is 25, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, he's 25.
So do you think that they are pushing hard for Latif because they're afraid of the possibility of losing Caitlin potentially?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of they want to get, a good quarterback, as many,
Yeah,
good quarterback in every class. So I don't think it's. I mean, I think you want to have good players in case something like
yeah,
that happens. I mean, be prepared for it. But yeah, I
yeah.
think they just want to try to, I think they're going to try to get Dayton Rayola in 26. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
that
that's a
should be.
no-brainer. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
I think that
try.
there's a few options on the board, but I mean, that just makes so much sense to me. And then if he develops like we kind of think he is, and there's a lot of I mean, there's a lot of people that say he could be just as talented as his brother once he really, matures and grows into his body. And then you could be looking at a situation where you have Dylan Rayola for 3 years, maybe Daniel Kalen for 2, and then you could have Dayton Rayola sitting behind Daniel Kalen for a season or so, and
I'll
then
take that.
he could take over. So I mean, if you could have 6 seasons of Rayola starting plus Daniel Kalen in there for a couple, that could be almost a decade of like strong quarterback play for the Huskers. So that's how you win. That's how you put yourself in a position to win multiple championships. Be in the playoff a lot and really set this program up for some long-term success.
And I was really interested to kind of read about what Michael Terry III thought of Nebraska. He's the top-rated athlete in the 2025 class, and the fifth overall player in the state of Texas in the class. And he was really high on his visit. He called his visit a 10 out of 10. Of course, all recruits do that, but I still think given this coaching staff success in Texas and his positive review of it, I think Nebraska could have a decent shot here, and Terry would be another absolutely tremendous get.
He would be huge. Yeah, they definitely seem like they're in a good spot with him. It feels like it's going to come down to Nebraska and like Texas. I think it's a Nebraska Texas battle is what it feels like to me. So, or maybe Texas A&M, but I know the Texas schools are kind of in the mix. But the fact that they got him on campus, this weekend was great. Let's get him back this summer. Let's get him back for a game. I think that's going to be the best way to, lock down some of those recruitments. And I think a big thing for Nebraska is just stay in the, like with Cortez Mills and some of these guys, stay in the mix.
Mm.
let him see the quarterback. You've got to feel good if you're a receiver, wanting to come play in this offense. So let
Yeah.
him see that stuff. And then, when the season rolls around, and I think it's going to be a pretty good one for Nebraska, I think that's going to put him in a good position with some of these really highly rated guys to close. And they're cleaning up with the in-state guys. Steve Wiltfong did mention, I should say, that Nebraska's in a good spot for Chase Lofton. He pretty much made it seem like they were in the lead for Chase Lofton, so I think that's really good. Didn't mention Christian Jones, but they did get him on campus twice within a couple of weeks. So
Christian Jones is going to be hard. I'm kind of mentally preparing not to land him. I would love him here. Don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of preparing. Like, I think it's going to be a tough recruitment. He's a really good football player, so at least I got him on campus.
He is a good player. I agree it's not going to be easy, but like I've said before, until somebody comes in here and takes a top player away from Matt Rule, I'm not going to bet against him. So I'm just not going to believe that Matt Rule is going to get beat for like an elite in-state player until it happens. I mean, Notre Dame took that Rezac kid, but Nebraska didn't offer him first. Like, there's been a few, but the Malachi Colemans, the Nelsons, Kalen, McMorris, all those kind of the really, really top guys, Tyson Terry, he's been able to get them. So I'm not, I believe that Texas A&M or whoever could land him, but it would not shock me if they got Lofton and Jones.
That would be unreal.
And so, I mean, they're probably your top targets. I'd say Lofton, Jones. These are like my top five off the top of my head. Lofton, Jones, Terry, TJ Lateef, and Cortez Mills. If I could give Nebraska 5 recruits, from this class, that would be it. And I think that they are at least in the lead or, in the top 2 or 3 with every one of those guys. So, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about at least the position they're putting themselves in with this class.
And you feel pretty good about the 25 class overall. I mean, I would right now. I mean, you had, for example, Petruzak, and then you have Tyson Terry. That's 2 really good defensive linemen. You got Caden Vermas. You got I'm actually blank. Oh, Jackson Carpenter. I mean, you got some really really good players in this class, and they don't necessarily need to have a big class full of 5-star players. They can experiment a little bit with speed and athleticism, and because now you have the depth to where you don't need to get these guys or else you're in trouble. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to see the makeup of this 2025 class, and it may not be like the 2024 class or even the 2023 class, but I still think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, like you said, 7 commits already. Most of them in the state, but Bryson Hayes is a kid I really like. That they got out of the state. Tanner Turch, another one from Colorado.
I like Tanner Turch a lot. He's really, really fast.
Yeah, and Bear Tenney I think is going to be really good. So you get him and Chase Lofton, and man, that tight end room is going to be loaded going into the future.
Carter Nelson, obviously, too, not getting him, but already on the roster.
And then Ishmael Smith-Flores, I thought, made a nice catch late in the game, and that was good to see. Because he didn't play a lot of high school football, so I methat was a player that was going to take time to develop, and it was good to see that kind of production out of him and starting to see him get it a little bit. But yeah, I like where they're at with a lot of positions. There's not looking at this class. There's not like a position where I'd say like they have to get some guys there outside of running. I mean, I would say they got to get. Which they have Connor Booth. They got to get multiple backs, so hopefully they can seal things up with Jamarian Parker. I know somebody else was hosting him for a visit. I can't remember who it was, but or maybe it was like TCU or somebody like that. So there is some other teams kind of in the mix, but Nebraska's still the favorite there. So he's another one I would add him to that name of that list of 5 guys. So I like where they're at. I like where this roster is. I feel like they're in a very strong place to take the Matt Rule year 2 leap going into the fall. So they still got to work, still got to put in, the time over these next few weeks, get into fall camp, tighten everything up. But I really feel I like the culture. I like the veteran aspect of this team, but also the young talent too. So I think they got a perfect mix to have a really good season and a pretty favorable schedule as well.
We've said that a lot these past couple of years, but this time I really feel it. I mean, Saturday got me very excited, and I'm excited to see the battles in camp, especially at the wide receiver position. And so, I think it's going to be, let's see, it's already May, a little bit more than 3 months away from the opener, which is nuts. I remember, fuming over Iowa, and now we're almost, 3 months away from the opener. That's crazy. I'm just looking at my calendar because I can't believe it's May, but it is May, and Nebraska is coming. Nebraska will, I believe, finally end the bowl game curse and start 6-0. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, we'll have to do a win-loss record here with one of these shows, but I definitely I'm on the bowl train for sure. I think they'll get back to a bowl game. And then I wanted to
Yeah.
before we close it up, I wanted to touch on Braxton May. Is that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Braxton May way. Meah. I need to learn these pronunciations. But anyways, a 7-footer from the transfer portal. I know a lot of Nebraska fans, of course. I don't know why people are just like determined to be so negative about
I
everything.
know there was such a
Um,
negative reaction towards this pickup, and go ahead. I'm
yeah.
sorry, but it's just like man, come on, like be excited. Don't be like maybe it's just because they're all jaded because everything's gone wrong the past couple of years. But have some like be excited. I don't know.
Well, and I mean, we made the NCAA tournament last year, and Fred Hoiberg, it's like, yeah, he hasn't. It's like Fred Hoiberg hasn't had any success in the transfer portal the last 2 years. So why would we trust him this year? I'm obviously,
Yeah,
being
yeah, being
sarcastic,
facetious. Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, so you look at Braxton May, he or however you pronounce his name, I'm sorry, but he was an All Pac-12 defensive on the All Pac-12 defensive
Mhm.
team in 2022-23, averaged 1.6 blocks. He's led Washington in blocks each of the last 2 years. I remember we were all sitting here after the Texas A&M game being like, man, wish Nebraska had some rim protection. So Fred Hoiberg goes out and gets one of the better rim protectors you can get in the
Yeah,
portal, and people are still mad about it, but whatever.
I don't know.
He also, this guy's athletic though, and he can do ball screens. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, after a ball screen, you can throw a lob up to him and he can go get it and slam it down. I mean, he averaged or he shot about 70% from the field. Even last year, 2 years ago, he averaged 8.8 points and 7.2 rebounds, 1.6 blocks in 27 minutes. Last year, he had some injuries, so he didn't play quite as much, only 16 minutes a game, but the shooting percentage was still there. He averaged almost a block a game in 16 minutes.
Yeah,
So that tells you what kind of defender he is. I think, with all the ball screens Nebraska wants to run, I think that'll be, work out really well. That'll give them, to me, this is the Josiah Alik, replacement, or Alec, excuse me. And then, that kind of, gives that replacement. I'm really still hoping that Rink Mass is going to play. I'm kind of freaked out. We haven't seen anything though, but
yeah.
I
I
don't
was gonna say,
believe
have I missed something, or has there really been nothing? Because it seems like we've been waiting for like a month and a half now.
there hasn't been anything, but I should double check this, but there was a list of like players who have applied for early entry into the draft, and I don't believe his name was on that list. So that tells me he's not entering the draft. I don't know. There's been some talk about injuries, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I would like to have some clarity on that soon. But I feel like,
No.
if Rink is back and this team can play, I feel like they've got an NCAA tournament roster already. So that's my thoughts on the basketball team right now.
I'm looking up this list of early entry for the NBA draft, and let's see. I don't have the link up yet, so but I agree. I think this team is loaded in terms of depth, and you have a shooter like Connor Essigan, a former Big Ten freshman of the year. You have May, a former conference player of the year, and let's see. I'm just looking down this list now. There's some names on here that I'll be happy I don't have to see again, that's for sure. But it doesn't appear to be a Rink Mast on here, so who knows? Like you just kind of said, I'm kind of intrigued as to why we haven't heard anything. I mean, maybe this will stretch into June. I hope not, but at any rate, I feel like Fred Hoiberg has done a really good job of going out and addressing needs. And if the last 2 years have proved anything, it's that he can do really well in the transfer portal, and he knows what it takes to win in the Big Ten. I think this roster, as constructed right now, is a little bit deeper than last year, and the addition of May, a 7-foot rim protector, is exactly what we needed. And because second chance points were a huge issue at times last year, particularly in the Texas A&M game, and his rebounding ability and his size and just his presence in the paint will be a tremendous asset. So we don't have to watch players just absolutely destroy us in that area.
And it should be noted before we wrap up here, the Huskers do, according to On3, have the sixth ranked transfer portal class in basketball. So all 5 of their additions are ranked as 4 stars. So I mean that's doing pretty good work. There's still 2 scholarship spots left. So if they could find another big time scorer, or if they need another big, if Frank Mass, well, I guess if Frank Mass is coming back, there'd be another spot. But at any rate, there's still plenty of work to be done. I do think that they would like to add another, kind of 3-4 type and another scoring guard / wing, whatever. But we'll see if
I'm
it
happy though.
happens.
I'm
But
I'm happy with the way it looks right now.
yeah, I think that they've built a good roster, and like I said, as long as Rank Mass is back, like I think this is a tournament team. So I like where they're at, and I like where the football team's at, and yeah. So we'll wrap it up there, you guys. We'll have some more thoughts on our Saturday morning chat. So come join us then. But if you haven't already, again, please do us the huge favor of hitting the subscribe button, hit the like button. Really does help us out, and check out HuskerBigRed.com so you can check out all of our written content, and join us on Saturday morning for our chat, and have a
Maybe
great
you,
rest of your
because
week.
I don't know if I'm going to be there, but maybe you. I have a
Okay.
birthday party I have to go to. It's
Okay.
party season, so I get all my weekends are being booked up with parties and family things, but maybe
So
Chris will join you on Saturday,
maybe we won't see you till Monday then, but
or maybe a Sunday morning chat.
yeah, we could probably do that. Maybe we'll see. We'll talk about it, but either way, we'll let you guys know. We'll be back with something here within the next week.
Yeah,
But even if we don't see you this weekend, have a great week, have a great weekend, and as always, go Big Red.
go Big Red.